Podcast. 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 Yeah! That was the best rendition of our theme song ever, even though I've actually just been reusing the same one the last few weeks. I used to just sing it live every week because I did not have the technical capacity to actually remember to copy and paste it into the podcast each week. But that background music rings out louder and truer and sings to my heart more than ever. Because if you folks don't realize, the background music for the podcast theme song for this Exhaust podcast is the old theme song to the Moto World TV show from the 1980s, which was essentially the only way you would ever see motocross on TV in the 1980s. And that show was hosted by Larry Myers. And Larry Myers came out of retirement, came out of hiding, and at the ripe old age of 80, helped announce at Unadilla over the weekend to help celebrate Unadilla's 50 years of existence. Kudos, pat on the back, handshake, tip of the visor. I actually said this to their face. The Robinson son and daughter who now operate the place, it was actually their parents, Ward and Peg, who started it. Now Jill and Greg run it. Kudos to them for remembering that Larry Myers is just as important to Unadilla history as any of the riders who raced on the track. Bob Hanna, synonymous with the place. Roger DeCoster, Rick Johnson, they were all there. Should have got Stanton out, but honestly, Stanton's been busy enough. He spearheaded all this Motocross Nation stuff at Redbud, so he's done his service to the industry right now. But Larry Myers, as the longtime voice of Unadilla, he's the one that got the Hill people getting going. He's the one that got the Other Side Sucks chants going. He's the one that called all the foreign riders commies. He's the one that scared the bejesus out of all of us at the donations in 1987 when Team USA had the back against the wall after a rough first moto. Larry Myers is Unadilla, and it was awesome to have Larry back. Larry is my inspiration for many of the things I do as a live and TV announcer in this sport. I tried to explain that to him. He seemed to not know who I was and seemed to not care at all. But I talked to a lot of other people who Larry does know and who did know Larry back when he was doing the job full-time, and they'll tell you that Larry kind of cutting you down and making fun of things and not taking anything seriously and basically being just, it's what guys do. We joke around with each other. That's kind of Larry's stock and trade. So I almost take the fact that Larry didn't have really any care in the world of what I had to say to him almost as a compliment. Like, I'm in the group. I'm in the club. Larry Myers, a lot of people listening to this podcast might not even know who I'm talking about. Yeah, I know that racing was on TV with the Carlsbad USGP once a year. Okay, there was also this show called Moto World. It came on in the early 1980s, before cable TV was a thing. But this guy named Lou Seals saw the vision of cable TV and motorcycle racing. He created a show named Moto World. Of course, he had Larry Myers host it because Larry already was the voice of the sport as a live announcer. So why not make him the TV guy? Moto World had highlights. I think it was a once-a-month show when it started. It had highlights of all the major motocross and supercross and road races at the time. They were not on TV. We did not have the internet. We didn't have YouTube. There was literally no way to see someone like Jeff Ward ride a motorcycle except for this show. And Larry was the host. And then once a year, they would give special coverage. They'd do a double episode, half hour of Moto World, and then a half hour of the USGP from Unadilla, which, again, outside of Carlsbad, was the only time there was any motorcycle racing on television in the United States at all, or at least motocross. And then Carlsbad went away. By the 87 donations, that race was the only race on television at all in motocross or supercross in 1987. Is that not nuts? And Larry Myers was, of course, the host. So that's where the theme song for this podcast comes from. It's the old Moto World theme. And I got to finally meet Larry Myers over the weekend. I have one other Larry Myers story. I met him one other time in 2005, but you're probably like, dude, just get on with the show. All right, so I am Jason Weigandt. This podcast, of course, brought to you by Yoshimura, yoshimura-rd.com. Go there to buy exhaust systems for whatever you have in your garage. It's not a car or a truck. How you like that tagline, huh? Just made that one up. Yep, Chase Sexton had Yoshimura exhaust on his bike. He got a podium finish on his Honda. Ken Roczen. Oh, my God, Ken Roczen at Unadilla. That's right up there with the greats, man. If you're Roger D. or the Hurricane, you should tip your cap to that performance. That 1-1 was amazeballs. I was in a conference call for this weekend's television show at Budds Creek today, and one of the exec types, they just kind of pop in these conference calls and ask us questions about motocross. They cover a variety of sports. They're NBC people. They're just curious. So one of them said, man, Marvin needed to step up. That was an off weekend for Eli. That was Marvin's chance to make up points, but he didn't win the race. And I said, yeah, Marvin probably did step up. That's as high up as Marvin can step. Ken Roczen like that, I just don't think Marvin Musquin can beat him. It wasn't Marvin not rising to the occasion. He rose to the occasion. He stepped up. He elevated his game. Roczen's game at Unadilla was just even more elevated. And sometimes you just got to give it to a guy. That was phenomenal. And he had Yoshimura exhaust pipes on his bike. So that was my long end around to promote our sponsor. Also, Air Medcare Network on board with our pods now. What if you're hospitalized with an injury far from your home? You want to recover close to family and friends. And with an Air Medcare Network Fly Your Home membership, you'll have control of where you're treated. You'll be transported to your local hospital of choice with no out-of-pocket cost. And you can save $10 on the membership with offer code 10MOTO. Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/RacerX offer 1. That's the number 1 to sign up now. And speaking of Racer X, we have a new issue out. I mentioned it last week. I wrote a story talking to some trainers and riders and people around the teams over those 3 brutal races at midseason, Florida, Southwick, and Redbud back to back to back. That's exclusive to the magazine. Speaking of Unadilla, Davey with history of Unadilla. That's a cool story in the magazine. One on the Bennett's War, which supposedly is an actual good motocross movie. I haven't seen it yet. I think it just premiered out in California. But hopefully Bennett's War is good. It'll never be winners take all. It'll never be on any Sunday. It could be better than the rest. So a behind-the-scenes story of how that movie came to be in the next issue as well. All exclusive. So go to racerxonline.com/subscribe. Now, today's podcast is with Ryan Sipes. I check in with Ryan once or twice a year. Good friends with him from back in his racing days, Motocross and Supercross. Then he retired. Moved to GNCC, which is kind of my wheelhouse also, so I stalked him through there. Last year, he launched this innovative program where he races a variety of disciplines, but does not go for any specific championship. That caught the fancy of folks at Red Bull who really liked that. So they not only helped him with the program this year, essentially sponsoring Ryan, but they've put together a video series to chronicle it all, and they brought out the best of the best. My guy Wes Williams of Verb Moto and all of his Verb Moto cronies, they are going to these races with Sipes. It's a new series called General Sipes. Get it? Because he's a generalist, not a specialist. So check out General Sipes. Couple episodes have been uploaded now, and you can follow Sipes through everything from racing Daytona Supercross and Nashville Supercross to Erzburg to flat track and apparently hillclimb. I forgot all about that, as you'll find out with my conversation here beginning. Sipes just won the flat track race around the bar in Sturgis. And by the way, qualifier here. Sipes wins these TTs. He won this race last year and this year. A TT is not really the specialist of the regular flat track riders. The oval tracks are more their deal. A TT has one jump and left and right hand turns. So I just want to qualify that to say it's not like Sipes is coming in and beating them at their very, very, very best. He's yet to try. I'd like to see him try short track. I'm sure we'll get there. But he rides with these guys during the week, and I think he knows, they're a lot better at those types of races. But still, for Sipes to come in and win a TT is still pretty darn amazing. He won the Hawaiian Supercross. That still doesn't make sense to me, and I watched it in person. I cannot believe he rode that well there for having virtually no Supercross prep time. Whatever. I'm just going to let Sipes tell the story, and go watch General Sipes. It's a really cool series, and it's got really what I think the best video people in the game chronicling it now. So the coverage is second to none. All right, here's Ryan Sipes. Okay, you have 2 wins this year. You have 2 wins in 2 different things. I have a feeling that you sense now, these wins are how significant as they are. I could just see it in your face in Hawaii. Doing these things is crazy, but getting these wins, that is the craziest part of all, I feel.
It definitely helps to, to be able to win something. It would be great to go get, top 5 at all of them, but it's even better to be able to win, 1 or 2 and to win. Actually, you're wrong, Weege.
Oh.
I got 3 wins in 3 different things. You forgot about my hill climb.
Oh, I only heard like a brief thing about that. You actually did win a hill climb. I don't even know this. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so it's called Motocross Super Series. I guess there's a couple different hill climb series, but this is the coolest one that I've seen. The format's really cool. You qualify by yourself, but then you race head to head up the hill as the final races, and it's like bracket racing. It's pretty cool. I went to Wisconsin, and this massive hill. This one wasn't like if you make it or not. It was just how fast you go up it. And had this 12-inch, extended swing arm, 12 inches longer on a 450, and it was pretty cool. But anyway, I was able to get that win. But definitely the flat track and the Hawaii were a little bit more important to me for sure.
All right, so this hill climb though. So what are we talking? Like straight rhythm up a hill, side by side?
Yeah, except not like doubles. It just kind of jumps and like you'd almost what they are is roads across it. So this huge hill, and then they cut. I mean, they're roads or water breaks or whatever you want to call them, but you take off the start. You do it like a tabletop. You go off a moto gate, which is cool. Like they drop the gate, you take off, you hit this little tabletop. Then you go maybe, 80 or 100 feet, and there's a wall from, out of Supercross, like a wall jump. You have to really check up, go over it, and then from then on, it's just you're wide open. But there's these jumps and these water breaks you got to figure out. Like it took me a while to figure out with the extended swing arm how to do it because you can get so far off the back compared to what you can with a stock swing arm. And then it was kind of cool. I found like a little kicker before one of them that I could hop over the lip. So I saved some time there. And it was super fun, man. Like I would do it again in a heartbeat. I had a really good time doing it.
I'm glad we actually started with talking about the hill climb because that kind of sounds like it's still summing up what you're doing here. You keep learning new stuff. You're able to somehow pick up on it pretty quickly, but you enjoy it and make pretty quick progress. That's kind of what this whole thing has been, right? Like learning as you go and kind of enjoying that process of picking up things as quickly as you can.
Yeah, that's the hard part, but the fun part for me is like, I don't know, I've always been a visual learner. Mm-hmm. So like when I was first turning pro, even before that, when I was like kind of getting good in the A class, I watched so many videos. Like that's just all I did. And I would, but not just to watch it and have it on in the background. Like I would rewind it and I would go back and I would watch like, all right, look, that's how Wyndham did that. But like, why did he do it better than the other guy? And back it up and look at it again. And so then when we go to these new things, like when I go ride with JD Beach, when we ride flat track, I probably don't ride as much as they do, but I'll sit on the side and watch them. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's how they're doing that. They're, off the brake sooner, or they're whatever, coming in harder, on the gas easier, whatever. So that's kind of the fun part for me is to go, these guys can do it. So I know I can, I just got to figure it out. And then so you try to like decode that, like how are they doing this so well and how can I do it?
Man, that's fascinating. And there's 2 parts. So you have to be able to see it, which not just anyone is going to be able to see that. And then you actually have to apply it. How hard is that? Like when you get on the bike the next time after you watch JD Beach, is it like a conscious process of like, okay, stay off the brakes now? Or how does that process work of actually applying it to yourself?
Yeah, that's been the toughest part for me is like, for me in motocross or supercross, even GNCC, the goal was to not think. Mm-hmm. Like once the race starts, like you don't think, because if you're thinking, you're going to overthink it. You're going to go slow. You're going to crash, whatever. In flat track, I have to think about it because some of the things I need to do to be good at it are opposite of moto. And my instinct from the last 30 years of riding moto is to whatever it may be, stick my leg out in the corner, or lean with the bike. And in flat track, those are the wrong things to do. Like, you can get yourself into trouble. So I have to consciously think, okay, all right, lean the bike over, sit on top of it, or don't stick your leg out, put it over to the inside like they do. So that's been a challenge, but also trying to, like I said, that's just the fun part for me is how do I, because when I go out and ride flat track with those guys, I'll be good for 2 laps, and then I'll forget one of the things. Like JD's told me all kinds of stuff, but watching it is better for me to be able to see it. And then, but I'll go 2 or 3 laps, and I'm kind of keeping up with the guys, and I'm feeling good about myself. And then for the next 5, I can't go around the corner. I'm high siding and doing all this stuff, and so I'm like, all right, take a break, watch those guys, and then I jump back in and I'm good. It's
wow.
It's just, it's kind of a process, but that's the challenge of it is what's kind of the fun part.
All right, well, then it goes into the next part. Then you have to actually execute it when it counts, which is really tough. And I even wrote a column on this in the magazine. Dude, when I saw you in Hawaii in that makeshift locker room pit area that we had, you had the race face on all day. And I was like, why is he so into this? And I would assume it's because you're like, I have a feeling I can win this if I ride to my abilities. So correct me if I'm wrong. Let's just start there. Is that the way you felt in Hawaii? Like, I can get this win if I do it right? Because it seemed like you were taking it very seriously in the moment.
To be honest, I thought Brayton was going to smoke me. But I hadn't ridden Supercross since, besides I rode on my straight rhythm track, which I'm sitting in front of it right now, and it's grass 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it looked like then.
Yeah.
Because after Nashville, I had I had a flat track, and then I had to get ready for Erzburg, so I was doing all that stuff. I didn't ride any Supercross until the week before Hawaii, or the 2 weeks before, because the week before I went to ride with Cody Webb on my way to Hawaii on the rocks on a 300 two-stroke. Oh. So I got to Hawaii, and I'm like, I know I can be in the top 3, but I want to stay close to Brayton. I want to see if I can challenge him. That was kind of my goal. I don't know if I was why I looked so serious. I think I was just trying to get my head back around. All right, we're back at Supercross. Let's
okay, that makes sense. Don't goof off here. Think about what I need to do just to ride well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to get back in that frame of mind of gate drop, you got to sprint. It's not a, feel it out or anything like that. Supercross is a full sprint the whole time.
Well, it still goes to my bigger point of, okay, you can watch it, then you can try to apply it yourself. But, I mean, any athlete says the hardest part really is doing it when it actually counts. So it's one thing to do it on a Tuesday afternoon, but to do it in the 15 minutes. Heck, how long is that race, by the way? The TT that you just won there in Sturgis. How long was that race? 10 minutes?
Less, probably 7.5. Yeah, it's 15 laps, and I think I was doing 32-second lap times. So
yeah, okay, you can learn it during the week, but if it doesn't come together in that 7.5 minutes, it doesn't matter. So to me, that's a whole nother level of, you got to tell yourself, I have to execute these new skills that I learned, and they got to come together right now at whatever time it is, 9 p.m. on a Saturday. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've found I used to be opposite. I used to be a better practicer than I was a racer. As I get older, I'm a better racer than I am a practicer. I don't know exactly why, but I just get fired up and and I'm ready to go, bring it on in the race. Where in practice, I'm take it easy, don't get too crazy, but yeah, it's I'll tell you, dude, at Sturgis, I mean, you can ask it was funny, Wes Williams, you know him, obviously. Yep. He was up there with Danny Stew and Crane and all those guys, and we're getting ready to go up for, I don't know, the heat race or something, and I'm like, hey, one of you guys, make sure you grab my hat before the main. We're going to need it for the podium. And they're like, oh, you're feeling good. And I'm like, I'm going to win. There's no question. I'm going to win. And I had to. I didn't have to, but I was going to win. Whatever it took, I was going to win. And I've done that before. I've told myself that, but I just knew it this time. I knew that I could beat all those dudes, and so that's what I went and did. It was kind of a surreal feeling to just kind of know it all day, and but yeah, it worked out.
Wow. So do you feel pressure when you get to these? It's one thing when you go to Erzburg and there's no real, I would think, expectation for results. Maybe some of the other races too. But is there pressure in the ones that you know you're better in? Because you're like, okay, this is my chance to really get a result and not just show up and give it a try. Is that almost pressure in a way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a difference going to Erzburg going, maybe,
Yeah.
Hopefully I finish, and going to a flat track going, I know I can, so
yeah.
I need to win, It just ever since Springfield, when I was the fastest guy all day, and then won heat semi, and then crashed out front in the main.
Yeah,
I've been kicking myself, and like it was hard, dude. It was a tough couple weeks going. This is that was a really good chance to win, and I blew it. So I just focused on flat track for the past however many weeks, and like I'm gonna win this thing, and I want to figure it out, and thankfully it worked out.
So you mentioned the video guys there with you, so that's a big change to the program this year. Just talk about the differences. Now you're with Red Bull and you're on a KTM. Last time we did one of these pods, you were still, you threw props to everybody that helped you last year. So is it drastically different this year, or in the end is it kind of the same and it just looks different? How different is it this year compared to last year?
Some of it's the same. I mean, I still build all my bikes and do all the travel myself and all that, but having the film crew with me is cool. Like, those dudes are cool, and everything is caught on camera. So it's pressure to do, like, more pressure to do good, but it's also like more drive to do good, if that makes any sense. Like, not that I didn't want to do good for myself, but it's like now, they're gonna, this is my year. I'm doing this crazy thing that nobody does. I need to make this happen. But Red Bull's great, man. They support me so much, and I talk to Hammer, Jeremy, my guy there, once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Like, we're buddies, and they just do a ton for me. Anything I need, they take care of it. So it's been really good. I've had a really fun time kind of transitioning into this role, and I kind of did it last year, but it's different, riding for a different company and stuff. And I don't know. I'm stoked on it. It's been a really fun year.
So let's see how much more variety is left. What are some of the other ones on the list? Your schedule's so varied. So what else do you have?
Yeah, so I got Peoria TT flat track this weekend.
Okay.
And then I'll have I was going to do Ironman motocross, but I haven't ridden my motocross track all year.
Wow.
Between having to prep all these bikes, and I've built a flat track, and trying to do the Erzburg thing, I just haven't had time to get my track ready and all that. And I could go there and qualify, and I might be able to get, I could run in the top 20, but that's not really what I want to do. So I'm going to skip that one. This will be the first year I haven't done a pro national since 2004.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's been a while, but so after that I got ISDE training camp, which is the same weekend as one of the full gas sprint enduros. So we're going to race that and then do our training camp after. Then after that I've got I think I'm going to go to the Racer X main event. And,
whoa.
Yeah, so it's just a thing. We want to go up there and kind of hang out, make it a family trip, and let my son race, maybe my daughter if she wants to. I might play around on 125 or something up there, just have some fun and have like a relaxing family weekend out of that. Those guys have been awesome, invited us up and everything. Then after that, Straight Rhythm, and then ISDE in November. So don't have a ton left, 4 or 5 races, but each one of them is pretty big.
Well, if I remember right, you told me last year that if there's anything really different this year, one of the differences is going to be you're going to do a variety of events, but it's not going to be racing every weekend like you were last year. So it sounds like that is a pretty significant change. You truly are spreading it out at least a little bit.
Yeah, well, last year I raced like 27 or 28 times.
Yeah.
This year I'm racing like 15, maybe 16. It's just, but all these races are, well, 90% of these races are much higher profile and more, takes a lot more prep to do. And like I said, not that I wasn't trying to do good last year, but I want to do extra good this year. So it's better for me to take some of these weekends off, not race every weekend. That way I can prep more. And I can also spend time with my family. I got 3 kids, and my wife is awesome, but she doesn't enjoy taking care of them by herself, or enjoy weekends alone.
Oh, yeah.
So it's good for me to be able to be home on some of these weekends where I'm not just gone all the time. I'm not just the leave on Friday, come home Monday every weekend like I was last year.
How has it been received? Like, have you had riders say, dude, I follow it, or that's awesome what you're doing, or I would like to do it someday? Now that we've seen some proof, 2 years of this, I've got to imagine there's some guys you're friends with that were like, dude, I love that. I never thought of it, or I'd like to do it myself someday. Has that happened?
Yeah, a ton of dudes are like, man, you got the program. Like,
yeah.
You gotta just have fun all the time. Like, yeah, I mean, it is. It's really, really cool. And it's not, I mean, anybody will tell you riding a Supercross track every day, the same track all the time, and never doing anything else from January or October to May, that's pretty boring, and you can get burnt out pretty easy. And it's hard to go to the track with the same fire and like joy and like, let's go ride our dirt bikes today. But for me, I mean, there's still days that aren't super fun, but it's pretty cool. It's a little bit stressful to keep all these bikes going and like have different setups for everything and all the different techniques. But every day I go and ride, it's like, yeah, this is cool. I haven't done flat track in a month. Now let's get back on it. This is going to be awesome. Or whatever, like getting ready for or going to Hawaii. It's like, dude, I haven't ridden my Supercross bike since Nashville. This is going to be super fun. So a lot of people are, like you said, a lot of the riders have been pretty into it, and I don't know, you might see some more of this. It seems like it's kind of catching on.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. At least because, again, you're doing these high-profile events. It's kind of like bucket list type stuff. But let's tackle the Erzburg subject, because I feel like in this video series it's out. That's like the linchpin of it all. Like, this is how crazy it is to do this crazy race. So how crazy was that one?
Man, so the only reason, or the only way I had to prep for it, I talked to Cody and I rode with Cody, but even he said, this isn't Erzburg, but I can help you with some techniques or whatever. I can.
And where was this? Where'd you go?
I went out to his place where he rides out in like close to San Jose.
Okay.
But so my only way to prep besides that was watching videos, and you watch it and you watch, whatever the Red Bull TV highlights or a lot of helmet cam stuff, because so many people wear helmet cams there. So you can pick different ones, like watch Graham Jarvis's, watch whoever's from last year, the year before, and you watch it and it's like, yeah, it looks gnarly, but it's not that bad. Like, I think I can do this. And then you get there and it's 10, 20, 50 times the size that it looked like on video. Like, I got there and I could not believe how gnarly it was. Just standing at the base of these hills or, in Carl's Diner, like, this is impossible. There's no way I can do this. And there's not been many races where I showed up and thought, I don't think I can do this. Normally, you go there going, yeah, I'm going to be all right. I've done this before. I've never done that before. And so to go there and, I was nervous, man. And I don't get nervous for races. Like, I get excited more than I get nervous. But I was nervous for that one because, like, I'm like, dude, what if I don't make it up, past checkpoint 2 or something? Like, what if I can't do this?
Yeah.
And what helped me a ton was I hung out with Johnny Walker, Manny Lettenbichler, what's his name, Billy Bolt, all those dudes, Joseph Garcia, Nathan Watson, like all the top dudes, the factory riders for Hard Enduro. I hung out with them all week before, and we walked together. And asking. I'm kind of hanging back. I'm hanging with them, but I'm watching what they're doing and like where they're scouting lines. And then I'd ask them, as we walked away from a section, like, what do you think? Like, are you going to go there or there, or how are you? What's the technique like that you need to do? Because I'm not sure. Like, I don't have a clue. And they're, they were super helpful. They were, you could tell they weren't scared of me, that I was going to do them.
Yeah.
But Manny was like, it's not as bad on the bike as it looks standing here. And I thought that's doesn't make sense to me, because I don't know. It seems like in the past you walk it and think, it's not a big deal. And then you get there and then, it is a bigger deal. But he was right. On the bike, it was like these hills that I would be just dreading because I knew they were coming. And I'd get to them and I go, I can go, all right, I'll just go there and there and there, and I make it. It wasn't that they weren't hard. Like, I drug my bike more than I rode it. I just picked it up and, moved it because, there's some of this stuff you can't understand it until you see it. But it was a pretty, like, I'm glad I did it. And I kind of want to go back now just to see if I can finish, because if you finish that thing, you are a bad dude. And that would be an incredible achievement for me to be able to finish that race. Would be amazing.
Yeah, so let's see. You've raced GNCC and ISDE, Sprint Enduro, whatever. You've done some off-road, but is this like not even in the same, like no special test or anything is even remotely like this?
Not even close, because it's not about speed whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, there's no speed. You can't even go fast if you want to. Like, the goal is to go slow so you don't slip off the trail or break traction or whatever. The goal is just make it over it. However you got to do it, and use as little energy as possible, because I timed out the timeout period. It's a 4-hour time limit. So they sound this horn and it says 4 hours and you're done, and you have to pull off and go back. I was ready to be done. Even though I didn't finish the race, like, I was smoked, dude.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, I drug my bike more than I rode it. And so it was, what was the question? What did you ask me?
Oh, yeah, ISDE, GNCC, they're nothing even close.
Oh, no,
yeah.
Nothing like it, because in that, like, even in GNCC, sometimes it's technical, but you're still trying to go fast. Mm-hmm. And in Sprint Enduro, obviously, or ISDE, like, you're going as fast as you can. You're going just a tad over your limit at all times, like right on the edge. Mm-hmm. And Motocross, Supercross, obviously, same thing. But this was like just a whole different deal. It was a different mindset. Like, I was still kind of charging on the, like, you'll do a hill or whatever, and then you'll pop out on a fire road or a mining road, whatever, and everybody else is just cruising, like, and I'm still kind of pinning it, because I'm like, I lost a ton of time back there when I got stuck, so I need to catch up. But it's just a different mindset than doing anything else that I do.
Yeah, and so you've literally never ridden up to a hill in any other kind of off-roading that looks anything like what you got to do there.
No, even the hills in GNCC, and some of them were kind of big, but
yeah,
they're so short. It's like your second gear maybe, mm-hmm. and you go right up it, or you get stuck and go down to the bottom and go right back up it. Like, some of these hills might be 10 minutes long, or not 10 minutes. 10 minutes when you're back where I was, behind a bunch of people. But
yeah.
It still might take you two minutes to make it up the same, because you go up and they're so steep that you're not going straight up. You can't. It's way too steep, way too slick. So you're like kind of side hill, and then pick the front end up and turn it 180, side hill again, and just like zigzag back and forth up these things. And then you get to the top and there's like a vertical wall or 1,000 big massive roots and rocks that you got to figure out how to get over. And it's not just go right up it unless you're Graham Jarvis. For everybody else, it's no, I'm going to make it to here and then I'll stop and think about it and then I'll go some more. So yeah, it's way different than anything else.
What I found here, though, is, look, we talk about being a visual learner, watching videos when you were a kid, walking the track behind these guys, watching the flat track guys during the week. So I think on the outside, people would think any guy who's like a Supercross guy that could win a race here or there and has that level of talent could probably do this if he wanted to. But it sounds to me, and I know you probably don't want to compliment yourself, that it isn't just something anybody could do. You seem to have a knack for trying to learn or wanting to learn or being able to that makes it play to your strengths. It's not just any top 10 outdoor guy, throw him into these things, he'd do this. I don't feel. It sounds like you kind of have a knack for wanting to learn or knowing how to learn or something like that. It kind of plays to your strengths. It sounds like to me.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know until somebody else tries it.
It's true.
They might be able to do it.
Yeah.
There's nothing special about me. The only thing that I'll say that I have that you have to do this is to be able to be a visual learner, because you can only tell somebody something that only goes so far. You got to be able to kind of pick it up by watching, and then to want to learn and to want to and be okay with getting out of your comfort zone, because as a supercrosser, it's not comfortable going and trying to do Erzburg or even doing flat track, because the first time I did flat track, I was so bad. I mean, compared to the guys, which I ride with super good guys. So it's not like there was another beginner there for me to,
that's right.
Kind of like buddy up with. It was like, no, these guys are all doing it perfect and I'm struggling everywhere. So you have to be able to, or I guess not be too proud to go, yeah, I suck at this, but I'm going to figure it out. Like I said, that's kind of the fun part for me, to want to learn new things. Like for me, dirt bikes are just so cool. Like what you can do on them, all the different things you can do, and the places you can go on a dirt bike, you can't go on anything else. Like you can't take a quad there or a Jeep or whatever. Like so to be able to learn all these different things is, especially at this stage in my career, like having done all this stuff, raced motocross my whole life and supercross and everything, and I'm almost 35 and I'm learning new stuff like every day, and that's super cool. I feel really blessed and grateful for that.
Yeah, so actually thinking about that, my last thing here, so you essentially retired from motocross and supercross, and you put an off-road effort together, put a GNCC effort together, but at that point, a couple of years ago, was there a part of you that thought, but I don't know, maybe I won't be good at it, maybe I won't get sponsors, maybe I'm just going to be done? It seems like, to fast forward now, whatever, we're talking almost, 5 years? 6 years?
6 years, yeah.
6 years later, I can't imagine you were like, oh yeah, 6 years from now, I'm just going to be as high profile and have videos. There's no way you could have predicted it would almost be the post-motocross, supercross career would end up being this successful. I mean, there's a chance it wasn't going to work out at all. It was totally new and different, even just the GNCC part for a few years.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've been highly blessed. But, like with the GNCC thing, it was kind of, I only did it because I could stay at home, which was the only reason I quit doing supercross. It's because I had to live in California, and I didn't want to do that, being married and having kids and everything.
Yep.
So the GNCC thing was like, hey, maybe I can get a couple more years of racing dirt bikes out of this, before I hang it up. And then I ended up, that first year of GNCC was so hard. Like, I never wanted to quit, but I wasn't happy because I sucked, man. Like, I could go fast, and then I would just KO myself, or I would start cramping up so bad I felt like a pretzel, at 2 hours or whatever, because I had to learn that fitness and all that stuff. So it wasn't easy. I didn't break in and just start winning, like, by any means. It took me 4 years to get a win. And so, there's no, I mean, I obviously didn't think that this would be happening now. I think I've got a higher profile now than I ever have been, and I'm doing cooler things now than I ever did. And, even when I was doing Supercross. So it would have been different if I was winning Supercross all the time, like if I was a national champ or whatever. But I was a pretty good rider. Like, I won some races and I was in the hunt. But it's like, it's just different now, being kind of the only guy that's doing this and trying to pioneer this. Like, I didn't just, I do think this is a cool idea. Like, I think this can grow legs. Like, people can do this more than just what I'm doing. Like, it could be a series. Like, what if there was a series where it was a bunch of different kind of races, and then, you're going to get, you would have a Supercross maybe, and you're going to get all the factory guys there, but then they're not going to go to Erzburg. But you'll have some guy, some privateer that goes, hey, I did that Supercross. I could do Erzburg. Like, let me try that. So
right.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's a pipe dream, but either way, this is super fun, and I think it's just unique and cool.
Yeah, it's just incredible how it worked out. That to think, you're higher profile now than after you. I mean, you didn't retire officially because you were just switching to GMCC, but you kind of retired. And to think that 6 years later you're actually at a higher profile, it's just phenomenal how this has worked out.
Yeah,
cool.
No, it's pretty wild.
One last thing: if you had someone giving you bikes, like you just showed up at the races and here's the bike, would that? I mean, it's a stress. Would that actually help, or at this point, is it like the riding skills are where it's at, or would that be a significant step if you get to that point?
Yeah, it would be huge.
Yeah.
Just from a time standpoint.
Right.
To be honest, I can't train that much because I have to build bikes and I have to travel, do all the driving and all this stuff. So, and build my own tracks. Like there's so many days that I miss just showing up to the Supercross track and it's all prepped. I didn't have to get in a water truck.
Yeah.
I didn't have to doze it. I didn't have to do anything. But I enjoy doing this stuff too. It's just the time thing. Like if I didn't have to do all this, maybe I could train more. I'm not in bad shape. As I get older, and I even talked to Brayton about this in Hawaii. He was talking about it's different with kids, man. And I was like, yeah. And I said, do you train the same way you did when you were 21? And he's like, not even close. And that's the way I feel. You can't from kids to, with me doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just different. And it stresses me out sometimes. I'm like, man, I haven't ridden my road bike in, 4 days or whatever. But at the end of, when it's all over, it's like, I didn't have time. I couldn't because I had to build a bike. I had to work on the track. I had to do, hang out with my kids, which is way more important than any of that. So,
sure.
It's a little different, and it would help to have all that, but I don't, and I'm still making it work. So I'm proud of that fact too. That I can. Now, don't get me wrong. I have help. My brother, my dad, like a ton of people help me out with stuff, and they don't have to. I don't pay them, But that's just kind of the way we are around here. If they need help, I help them, and when I need help, they help me.
Yeah, and I only bring up this point because I think. We've talked about it before, but it never hurts to remind people, like, even though you're on Red Bull and you're riding KTM, I think some people on the outside probably think, well, KTM races all these things, so they just roll out the factory bike every weekend. To me, the fact that you have to do it all on your own is just as much of a challenge as the actual doing the races. Like, that's full privateer, really. That's not easy. So that's why I try to throw that factor out there. And who knows if someone was doing it, let's say this is huge 10 years from now, or is a series or something, how much it could grow, how much room for growth there is if this were actually like a factory position. We'll have to see.
Yeah. If the factories jumped in, it would make it way different.
Yeah,
honestly,
exactly.
Because it's especially this, like it's one thing for a privateer to race Supercross on his own. Like that's super hard, and those dudes are men. I mean, to be able to work on your bike and drive coast to coast in between races and all that stuff, like that's tough. But if you had to do everything I'm doing and by yourself against factory teams, that
yes.
Because I don't get to ride 3 times a week. I get to ride maybe twice, sometimes 3, but that's only if I have like the same discipline back to back or something like that. Because you got to build another bike or fix another track or do whatever, or travel to Europe. It would be hard to compete against a factory team effort on this, but. Who knows? I mean, they could do it. I'm interested to see, like, especially if I can keep doing good with this and maybe do better next year, and if it kind of catches on, I think it'd be cool.
Yep, we'll call it the Sipes Cup somewhere down the road.
Sipes Cup.
Sipes Cup, the innovator. All right, you got to go. Let me guess. Do you need to work on some bikes or something?
I'm actually just got done building my flat track. Well, I got done with the finishing touches on my flat track. My TT for practice on for this weekend. So I'm going to get out here on the water truck and fire this thing up and get to ride.
Literally, you're right in the trenches right now. Water truck, work on bike, and ride. As we
I
speak.
can send you a photo. I'm looking at it all. Like I said, I'm looking at my straight rhythm and the flat track's right beside it.
That's awesome. Yeah, send me the pic, and we'll get this up. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks,
Yep, thanks for the time. So that'll do it with Ryan Sipes. That's our episode of the Racer X Exhaust Podcast this week, brought to you by Yoshimura, yoshimura-rd.com. Also follow them on social media. Instagram account's pretty cool. Cool photos of the race bikes. Cool photos of the new products you can buy for your bike. Also, airmedcarenetwork.com. airmedcarenetwork.com/RacerX offer 1, the number 1, and you can get $10 off your membership with the code 10MOTO. What I'm really impressed with the Sipes program, not only is he doing what is already considered impossible, which is racing all these series and doing it well, but he is also doing it on his own as far as building the bikes. It's like the double challenge. Each one of those would be challenging enough, and he's doing both successfully. That's crazy. And I cannot remind people of this enough because I, again, assume the assumption is KTM competes in all these series that he races. Or last year, Arizona Husqvarna, they compete in most of them. But it's not like he shows up at the race and they roll out one of the race bikes and say, here, race it. And they don't ship him a practice bike either. He's essentially a privateer, even though he's on what looks to be a Red Bull KTM. So that just makes this whole deal even tougher and makes him more of a darn hero. It's awesome. We'll see if someone else does it someday. I think he's kind of paving the way here a little bit. But that's for the future. That's our show for now. Going to Butts Creek, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.